Now, if you've been thinking about getting into apparel printing and maybe even DTF printing as a business, then this is the video that you'll want to watch. I'm going to share with you 5 things that I've discovered after printing around 250 meters of DTF. And just to give you a sense, every 100 meters is around anywhere from 200 to 300 t-shirts, sweaters, or DTFs. That's a lot, right? So we've been printing a lot and we've been learning a lot throughout this entire process. So what I want to share with you today are the top 5 things that I've learned when we have actually been using this printer for such a long time. And this is going to help you with your buying decisions. So if you've been considering it, thinking about it, and you'd like to know what you're going to get into before you actually make that buy decision, you know what? Make sure you watch this video. Also, if you're interested in getting a demo, having a one-on-one consultation with me, I'm going to have a link in the description area that's going to help you schedule some time with me, and I'll go over everything that I've learned, and I'll help you learn more about the apparel printer, and maybe this may be the right solution for you. So let's get right to it. Now, the very first thing that you should consider is where you're going to put the printer. I know many people who are doing a side hustle or starting to get into a business may choose to put the printer in the garage, and it may sound like a great idea. The challenge that you're going to run into is if you don't have a temperature controlled garage, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems with quality of prints. You're going to have problems with just overall maintenance with the printer. It's not going to be a good experience. And what I mean by temperature controlled is making sure that you have temperature that it's adequate, like for you or me in the actual garage. In Chicago, for example, we suffer from extreme cold and we also suffer from extreme heat. That temperature variation doesn't really work. The other thing is that you have to have the right humidity. Now, one of the things I wanted to highlight, I've spoken to a lot of friends who are in the business of DTF printing, and they do massive, massive printing, and they have the really big printers too. And humidity is something that's important for these printers. It doesn't matter what brand. So having a humidity level that's anywhere from 30 to 60 is really important. Matter of fact, we operate our printer continually at a 51% humidity. And having it in a garage where you don't have the right, I would say, insulation or the right enclosure around your garage, there could be some, let's say, some air leakage taking place, is going to affect the quality of your print. So unless you have a temperature controlled garage, I would really stay away from that. Having it in your home, I know a lot of people who have it in their home, and I know a lot of people who have it in their basement. If you're going to choose to have it in your home or your basement, even though you have temperature regulated environments, you need to make sure that you have the right humidity level. Now, we have a whole home humidity system. My son suffers from dry eyes, and we needed to have the humidity at a certain level. We actually have a really good humidifier. I have a steam-based humidifier that takes care of our home, and the humidity level is set to relatively high. Even with that, I couldn't get the right humidity level for my apparel printer. So I had to purchase a humidifier. That humidifier sits right next to the apparel printer when it's printing and basically raises the humidity level in that working area to 51. Now, I don't have to put a tent. I see people who actually put a box around their AP printer. I see a lot of people who do some really creative things. But having a strong humidifier that can hold a lot of water as well is something that I would highly recommend that you consider. And you'll see here in this picture how I have my apparel printer and the actual humidifier right next to each other. The one thing I'll highlight is that you don't have to have the humidifier running all the time, right? So our house humidity level is relatively around 29, 30 is how I can get the basement. But then with the actual humidifier next to my apparel printer, I'm able to boost it up to 51%. And I'm able to do that within seconds. So you don't have to have it running every day, only when you use the actual apparel printer, and you want to boost it up before you start doing any kind of printing, and all your prints will be perfect. The other thing that you want to do is just make sure that you do sufficient testing when it comes to your prints. For example, another thing that I learned really quickly was that you could get a white outline around your prints, and they don't look professional when you do that. And that's because of the white layer that helps the colors pop out was bleeding over the actual prints themselves. And that's something natural. It's not a defect with the printer, but it's actually something natural that happens. So basically what we did is we had to reduce the amount of, or choke the white a little bit further in so that it wasn't overlapping the color. And it's very easy to do. And in my case, I had to have a 0.15, and that resolved my problem. So you see no outlines. So the next thing to realize is that out of the box, the printer is not going to perform 100% like you want it to. And specifically, I'll say it's the oven settings. The oven settings are set too high. When I started printing my first prints, I learned really quickly that my prints were coming out like they were overbaked. It looked like a raisin that had been through a desert. It really shriveled, really ugly. And in order to adjust that, you have to reduce the temperature of your oven. But you'll need to make sure that you test and lower the temperature of your oven to get the right flat DTF print. Now, this is going to vary based on if you're printing fast or if you're printing slow, or rather, if you're baking fast or baking slow, because the printer does have two bake settings, one for fast and one for standard. And you'll need to regulate the temperature to the appropriate setting based on your bake speed. Now, one of the things I will say is that once you set this for the very first time, you don't have to do it again. So once you have it set, you're set to go as long as you maintain the print speeds or the bake speeds that you're looking for. Now, the third thing, and this is really important. Anytime I see someone having problems with a printer, I look at the printer and I see how well it's been maintained, right? Now, I'm not judging, but one of the things that this printer requires is to be cleaned. I clean this printer every single day, every single time I use it. And all it takes is about 3 minutes. I'm going to show you what I do to clean the printer after every use. And what I do is literally just wipe down the wipers. It has 2 wipers. And I have a microfiber towel that's lint-free. I wipe them both off. There's a color one, and then there's one for the white. And then the other thing I do is I wipe down the area where the actual head rests. What that's going to do for you is going to make sure that you're not going to have clogs. It's also going to make sure you don't get streaks on your print. And third, what it's going to do is it's going to make sure that those prints are always going to be coming out crystal clean, really crispy. And anytime I look at a problem where there's streaks, there's blurriness, or there's something's going on, when you look at the print area, it's not in good shape. And this is something that just takes minutes to do. So I literally have a little caddy sitting right next to my printer, attached to it magnetically, that has my cleaning supplies. I also have a little microfiber wipe that I wipe off any excess powder that may have gotten into the print area to make sure that all of my prints are clean and ready to use. The other thing is on a weekly basis, I empty out the ink waste basket. And that ink waste container basically is ink that's being circulated every day when you're not using the printer. And it is biodegradable. It's based off of water. It's a water-based ink. And it's something that you can just wash and then just put it down the drain. You don't have to worry about anything else. It's something that you have to do. So I do that once a week, but then every single time I use it, I clean the machine. And I'll show you again my cleaning process. And this makes sure that this machine is always working.
Now we keep all our cleaning supplies that we use either on a daily or a weekly basis really close. So you'll notice here I have this caddy that magnetically attaches everything to it. So I have my brush, I have my wipes, I have my microfiber towel, and then I also have my cleaning liquid here with also some towels that I use that are lint-free to clean areas of the actual printer. Now you'll notice my humidifier. I have it right next to the actual apparel printer. It doesn't throw any type of steam, anything out there. You'll notice what the humidity level is, and if I look at the secondary monitor right here, it says it's 62. We're going to go ahead and turn on the printer so you can see what it says inside. Now you notice that it says that the humidity level is around 64. That's a little bit high, so I'll just turn this off for a little bit. But because I like running mine around 60, but you can see how much this unit here is able to raise the humidity level for my actual printer. It does it really fast, and this really ensures that you're getting better prints. On this side of the printer, you'll see the ink waste container, and you can see that I'm about this much here. I'm going to be emptying it out probably today and washing this out. This I do on a weekly basis, and it's really easy. All you do is take it out, wash it out with water, put it back in, and you're set to go. Now the first step in my maintenance routine, this is after every job that I run at end of day. As I go into control, I'll take you one step back. I go into maintenance, I'll go into control, and then I'll move the print head. So I'm going to move it all the way over. And by doing this, it exposes the area that I want to clean. Now this is the piece that I clean, again, at the end of the day, after every day of run. And what I like making sure is that these are the wipers. And if these wipers get a lot of accumulation, what ends up happening is you start seeing some smearing taking place on your actual DTF film that's coming through here. You'll also notice that this area here is pretty saturated, not overly saturated, but you can see around it. I like cleaning this. And then I use a separate towel to clean this area right here because this is going to be the black ink. I don't cross-contaminate, so I use one of these little guys for each piece. And you can buy these by the pack, and I'll just wipe it off. So the process is pretty simple. I'll just come right here, wipe this way, and it's clean, right? That's literally all I have to do. So that's the white. I'll go ahead and wipe around the white area as well, and then do the same thing for the black. So all done with the white. Now we're going to work on the black side. So do the same thing we did on the white side. Put this little cleaning right here. Wipe this down. You'll see how much is there. See all that just came off? Then I will clean around the print head area. This is where, as your machine is flushing ink, this is where it goes, right? So I like keeping this area nice and clean as much as I can, because this is going to keep my print head nice and clean for the next print job. You get no smears when you do that. Now this comes off as well, so I can actually take this off, and underneath it there's another area that I'll clean weekly. Sometimes there's some overspillage of ink. The ink falls in that area. You do that once a week. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the maintenance that I do for the ink area. Now in the actual area where I get the actual film coming through, one of the things I like is to make sure that my rollers are clean. So keep in mind that we've run, I think I said 250 of film already, and you can see how nice and clean my rollers are. So I wipe those down also with the towel if I see any kind of ink stains or anything on there. And then what I do is, I like going over this with this microfiber, right? Just to do some cleaning, make sure that I have no DTF powder left here. And if I have a lot, what I'll do is I purchased this vacuum. So this is the vacuum that I use. I'll go ahead and power that up. Put it on high, and then I'll just remove any powder that may be here. Be careful not to hit the actual print head. It doesn't like that, so I stay away from that area here, but I like keeping everything nice and dust free. Printer's happier when it's clean. So I'll just go ahead and clean this. And that's kind of my maintenance routine. Outside of making sure that these guys are all full, that's all I do.
Now, the fourth thing, and this one, I see it every single day. I see people clamoring for help on Facebook, and that's because they don't have supplies. I see, does anyone have a roll of DTF material close by? I really need one. I'm in this state. I see, I'm out of white. Can someone get me white? Who's in this state that can get it to me? I just ordered it. I have people who will say, I don't have moisturizing material. And how do I get some? And is there a substitute? The challenge that everyone is facing is that they're not planning, or those that are having this challenge rather, are not planning for their use. Here's a basic practice. And this is something that I learned even in one of the Facebook groups, because I asked those that are super experienced, and then those that actually have higher end machines too, not just those in the xTool community, but those that use other DTF machines. And what I found is that most individuals who are running a business, small business, side hustle, or large business, will have backup stock on-prem in their home. So that means that you're not just running what's in the machine, but that means you have 1, 2, and I know of people that have up to 6 sets. What does that mean? Well, this is how it translates. That they have 6 bottles of white, 6 bottles of red, 6 bottles of yellow, 6 bottles of moisturizer, 6 of everything, and they literally have 6 rolls of DTF. So they're never caught off guard. And they have a process which you find in every industry, and that is, when I use a roll, I order a roll. So they're always keeping their supplies. Now, 6 is a little bit too much for our volume. So what we've chose to do based on our volume is have 3. 1 in the machine, and then 2 more on standby. So that means that we have 3 of everything, 3 of every color, and we have 3 rolls. And that's really worked really well for us because we never find ourselves under pressure because we don't have enough of any of the materials that are needed in order to do any kind of job. So every single time when I put in a bottle of white, right, I order a bottle of white. If I put in a red, a yellow, whatever other colors are, I will replace them. Now, there are times with my timing and my usage where I may just get a full kit. But the whole point is that you want to have minimally, you want to have one backup. Best case, have 2 to 3 based on your volume. If you have more, I know people who are going through 3 rolls a month. So you can imagine someone who goes through 3 rolls in a month probably is going to have 2 times that. They may have 6 to 9 rolls of DTF and then of all the other things. So make sure that you have backups. And the same thing is true for the powder. So you go through a lot of white, you go a lot of moisturizer, and you go a lot of DTF powder. So I have that process. We keep 3 on hand, right? 1 in the machine and 2 on storage. And then as we use them, we replace them. So make sure you have enough supplies. Now, the 5th thing that I've added and I've learned throughout this process is making sure that you have the right supporting tools for the apparel printer. The apparel printer needs a good press. You have to have a good press, and a good press makes a difference when it comes to creating your garments. Second, what you need is a backup power solution. And I've been testing many solutions, and I have a review coming up very shortly. But I'll say right now, one of the I would say the power supplies that I recommend as a backup generator would be the Jackery. So there's 2. There's a Jackery 1500, and there's a smaller Jackery. And also there's one more that I have, which I would also recommend, and I'll include these links, is one from Anchor. These are small battery backups that have a feature that's called UPS, and that is an uninterrupted power supply. What this means is that you plug your printer, not your oven, you plug your printer into this box, and they run anywhere from 300 all the way up to 1,000. You plug it into this little battery. This battery also gets plugged into the wall. And what will happen is, in the event that you lose power, your printer will always continue to run. And that's critical. I know so many that had in the recent storms that we had, the winter storms, that were frightened, concerned. What happens if I lose power? I expect I'm going to lose power. And people were running to get generators. Don't run to get a generator. This would be part of your business process. You could look at this as loss prevention because you don't want to lose your print head. That gets really expensive. You could look at it as business loss prevention and spend a little bit more and get a battery backup that will also run your printer and your oven. It's going to cost you more, but if you want to keep the business running, even when you don't have power, you have to think about that as well. But a power solution, some type of battery backup where you can always have it plugged in, is going to give you peace of mind, especially when you go on vacation. I've left this printer idle for 2 weeks when we've gone on vacation, but I have it plugged into a battery backup that has an uninterrupted power supply feature. And in the event that we lose power, it's always running. And some of the new, I would say, battery backup solutions are also Wi-Fi enabled so that you can monitor them remotely, and it's going to give you that peace of mind. So guys, that wraps up our review. In the next video.